As we all know at this point, GT6 has ended March 28th, 2018, I think at 8 a.m. Eastern, noon, whatever that's called, UTC or whatever, the Universal Time. And most likely when I upload this video, this will be after that. But I'm recording this with about 18 or so hours to go before it is over, so they're still online, and I'll end it with online because that's the best version of GT6. This is my final thoughts on the game, which is including online. I ain't saying this is going to be the last video of GT6, but it will be in terms of consistent uploads. Like, I'm never going to say when I'm going to have another GT6 video. It'll be more of a thing that happens. Because I doubt there'll be more series, but I ain't going to say this is the last video either. I'll just leave it open. Pretty much like all of the series I've done in GT6 is the biggest series of all of them when you include DRL in there. No one series I've ever done is completely dead in the water, really. I might bring it back if I see a good point too in GT6. It will be the most of that just because it's the most videos. So anyway, on to my final thoughts about the game, and not just more of the future with the game, because there ain't much of one. Looking back, GT6 was good. It wasn't great, it was good. It was probably the worst Gran Turismo game of the lot till Sport came out. Really about the only other game that you could make a technical argument for is GT3, which I guarantee I'd be kind of banished for saying that, because GT3 was actually the highest selling Gran Turismo. But honestly, it only had like 100 and something cars, and there was a lot of new cars on that. And the track list was kind of weird. It was different than people expected. The game's physics were a lot different than people knew, and it's GT Sport. GT3 is like GT Sport. But anyway, GT6 now. I guess, in a way, I'll sell my stuff and then sell more of a broader scope. For stats, they're not that accurate because this is my PlayStation 3 at my college, where I did the grinding for the 500 performance point race car event at Laguna Seca, so therefore the miles are inaccurate and the race are inaccurate in a bigger way. I have more miles than I actually do, but the actual races and stuff are inaccurate in a smaller way just because I don't have much time to actually play here. So yeah, the stats aren't accurate. Where I say I don't play that much, all this still says it's new. It's definitely not. But even though it's kind of not the most accurate of stuff, I'd say accurate review is still pretty realistic. As for the cars in the game, GT6 is the best Gran Turismo there is. This is probably the only category where GT6 is the best Gran Turismo. Sport beats it in graphics. I'd say 5 beats it in overall features because 5 had the self racing. Remember, 5 actually had a track creator as well. It was just different. And then 5 started the seasonal events. 6 just copied what 5 had. And then in terms of just overall nostalgia, at least for me, it's Gran Turismo 4, but that's probably different for everyone. GT1 has it where it was the start of it. GT2 is probably people started figuring out what the game was, so that made it better. And then the 3 it's the highest selling one, it's the most known one. 6, really, the only thing it actually has is the car list, which again, where this is my PS3 at my dorm, not too many are loaded in. But as y'all can see, that's a whole heck of a heap of cars I have, and this is just ones that I own, which isn't even half in the game. I think I'll actually discount it's not half in the game, because some of them are duplicates. Like I have duplicate Rams and stuff, just because some I use for drifting, some I use for racing, some I have an oil change, some I don't. Just so I can use them for different events and have them at their peak of their performance. But yeah, that's the best part of GT6 is the cars. There's more cars than any other game. Obviously, there's some cars I'd love to see back. There's some cars I'd love to see added. But, I mean, just statistically, GT6 is the best Gran Turismo game in terms of cars. Honestly, I can't remember for tracks. I can't remember which one has the most. But technically, GT6 is tied, at least with GT5, the best for tracks, because where you can make your own. You could do that for 5 and 6. Who knows for sport? Hopefully with sport we can. I would hope at some point. But GT6, well, we know we did or do or whatever, depending on when you watch this video, have online. And again, this is just a copy from GT5, but I'll go ahead and say this right out. GT6 online is worse than GT5. There's no shuffle racing and the servers are quite bad. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but I don't think I'd have that much nostalgia for a game that quite literally was playing online still 4 years ago. That's correct. GT5 Online was actually still around 4 years ago-ish. I can't remember the exact day it ended, but I remember it was around in 2014. This is 2018, so that's about 4 years. That's kind of scary to think that's only been 4 years-ish since the last game online even ended, and this game's barely even been around for more than 4 years, but whatever. That's a different rant for a different day. Kind of. That I may never actually make, but this is more looking, I guess, for the good side. But yeah, GT6 Online was one of its worst aspects, at least for me, because the servers were quite bad. I've always had bad internet, but it seems like GT5 was more compatible with bad internet than GT6 was. So again, moving on. Point to GT6, and one of the few points for GT6 are better than other games. GT6 did implement the quick matches. That's cool. I don't really need to describe them. They are what they are. As you go in, you race against random people in whatever sets of races they have there, and then it's just, you go race by race. You can stay in the room if it lets you stay in the room. And you can leave if you want, but more than likely or not, it will make you leave anyway, because again, the servers in this game are quite bad. So, yeah, that's a cool feature. I mean, obviously, if y'all know GT Planet, I've done a whole heck of a heap on quick matches, but honestly, that's just more because of the car than the actual thing. I guarantee at least half the quick match races I've shown on their channel have involved a ram. Anything that involves a ram, I'm surefire gonna do at some point, just because rams are cool. That makes up for a lot of negatives that may be involving online and stuff. I'm willing to connect 1 out of every 5 races if it means I get to drive that ram for 1. So that makes up for a lot of things, but honestly the ram has been there since GT4, so that's not that big of a new thing. Honestly, everything else isn't that new. I mean, the Red Bull thing kinda is. We had it in 5, but it did kinda get expanded for 6. Again, cars are good for 6. There's more cars statistically than the other. 6 did kind of implement more with Vision Gran Turismo. It's kind of been said before, we've had versions of Vision Gran Turismo, just not call that really, since GT1. Gran Turismo is always like the crazy concept vehicles, and that's good or bad depending on how you want to look at it. Also look at a positive and say, hey, this gave us the Tomahawk that we could use in all of its ways. That's one thing that I just straight up don't get about sport. Is why does a real driving simulator that's trying to be more real than it ever has not include a button for curves or downforce management or whatever you want to call it, because it's different on different cars. 6 had that, so you could use the Tomahawk in its fullest extent. Sport doesn't. Point for 6, again, cars are good for 6, that's really about it. 6 has nitro as well, yay, 4 had nitro. I think some other games did too. 5 didn't, sport doesn't, whatever, take that as you may. Some people like or dislike nitro depending on how they are. And then all this, there's really nothing new here, it's kind of the same stuff. Again, depends on how you are. The paints were different for 5 than, or 6 than 5. Because 6, they were just there when you had it. 5, it's however many cars you bought or how many of the paints you had. Which is it depends on the person. I think I prefer GT6's way of doing it just because it's more open. But honestly, it didn't affect me that much either way. So, moving on. Yay, Goodwood. This was kind of just there and then was forgotten about. I don't know that many people even mentioned the Goodwood stuff in 2018. This was fun for the bit that we had it. And then there's the moon missions, which were iffy to begin with. As I've actually said in other videos, that's kind of about GG Sport. It would be cool if there was some type of space DLC thing actually, where you know what, you can drive real cars on the moon, because eventually that's probably the future. Viz and Gran Turismo is also the future, so why not combine them? I don't know. But instead, we used a moon buggy from 50 years ago to knock over cones and do time trials and stuff. I don't know. It was something. It was entertaining, but it wasn't. Definitely wasn't realistic. We couldn't do anything else on the moon other than drive that one car that went 17 miles an hour. But then there's this. Sure, this is cool. The Senna events. They were hard, which is realistic, and this was probably, at least for me, the most realistic part of the game. If ones are hard to drive, that was a hard event to drive. That was, I think, the last thing I golded to get platinum on GT6. Yay, that was maybe the best of the added features library, which is sort of this list. Sierra, I mean, these two are kind of the same, or these two, the Goodwood and Sierra, it's just an event that's fun for there at the time, and then when you do it, it's not really worth going back to, so. Me, cool, yeah, well, fine, whatever. Kinda like the other ones. But it was Ridge Racer, which I didn't play any, so I'm not going to say much on them. Cool for some, not for others. But anyway, Photo Travel, every other Gran Turismo game I think has had this, maybe? Maybe. I don't know, at least since like GT3. Nothing really good or bad to say about it. It's there, it's been there for a while, yay. This is the most forgettable part of the game, isn't it? Because you can barely even, oh wait, there's also this. This is like if you're rich and you can do this with a real card and put it in a game. This barely anybody used. This barely anybody can use. Literally, I would say there's probably not even 100 people on Earth who use this, but it's there, so I'll mention it. This is the part that will make the game the most timeless and like usable and stuff, because we're the only ones able to use this, meaning whoever had GT6, because 5 didn't have technically this, and we may never get this again. So if you had 6, you remember these, and you may have these forever, depending if that's like allowed and stuff. We'll see. You can't download anymore, but maybe you have the ones you have. I don't know. I'm recording this pre-online being off, so I hope we do. If we don't, I'm gonna do a rant about it, but I'm just gonna say we do. Again, it's not necessarily that much better than 5's, but it's different, and it's its own way that, again, only 6 has, so cool. Really, the only thing that made this memorable, honestly, is that you could glitch the tracks out. And there's the 60-meter home straight where you could even glitch the cars out. GT5 had better glitchy cars, GT6 had better glitchy tracks. It's looking like the glitchy tracks will be more timeless than the glitchy cars, but again, we'll see on that. If only we could have them both simultaneously, cool, but whatever. That's actually sort of kind of the end of the general features. I guess now it's better to put it all together. For me, altogether, GT6 was the game where I probably learned the most and became the best version of how I can race. Honestly, sport, I haven't gotten all that much better. Maybe I've gotten better in racing in a pack, but honestly, I think I've just gotten less rusty than racing in a pack, because, as y'all know, GT6-ish was where I started racing in actual, like, events and stuff. I mean, I raced online in GT5, I raced a little bit clean in GT5, but rarely. 6 is where I actually started it, and then I kind of quit since, like, 2016, really, racing all that clean. And in sport, I just kind of got the rust off. But yeah, I mean, GT5 is where I started learning how to tune. I got really good at drifting in 5, but I got that much better in 6. I'd say 6 is probably my best. Maybe not the best learning curve, because I'd say in a way it's sort of kind of whatever this is called. Is it exponential, where it goes like, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like the human population. It's that same graph. It goes like this. Like 5, it was like here. 6, it's like here. Sport, it's like here. So, yeah. It's the most technical growth, but maybe not the most percent or whatever. But still, I'd say that's worth mentioning. 5 was ended about my best being 1,000 or so. My average being about 3,000 in time in drift trials, except for the drift trials that were front wheel drive, but that's different. 6 ended where it's about an average of 500 for both. That's better. My best is 29th. My average is about 500th. 3,000th in a GT5 to about 500th in it. GT6, I mean, again, by numbers, that's not nearly as much as like starting out at like 20,000 into 10, blah blah blah, but different video as well. Now to the more big scale of it, again, with the general, not the specifics. GT6 was not all that much of a success. It's been said before. Sold, I guess at this point, about 6 million copies. The last official total that I've seen is 5.71 million, and that was a while ago. I can't remember the exact date, but a while ago. At that point, it was done selling at big numbers, but I'd say just copies broke or whatever, or people bought it in like a reduced whatever, but I'd say 6 million is pretty realistic. Granted, I can all but guarantee this can be more than Sport. Sport has no more than 4 million at this point. It's official, hasn't been out yet, but it's pretty good prediction. It's no more than 4 million at this point. It's not selling all the big numbers anymore either. It may never even get to 5 million. But compared to every other Gran Turismo, GT6 is kind of a failure. All the other main Gran Turismos that's not like a prologue or demo or whatever sold like 10 million or more, I think. Like GT5, for example, sold, I think it was like exactly 10 million. It was a bundle, but it still counts. You don't really count that in a different way. Because honestly, you couldn't really bundle GT6 that much because, well, it came out with the PS3 when the PS4 was coming out, so GT6 was bad marketing all around. The PS4 was coming out, even the PS3 was getting beat quite badly with games. GT6 came out, I think, a little bit after Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. Both on the PS3. You're barely going to get any sales on the PS3 anyway, right when the PS4 is coming out, and then you get beat by the much better selling game. Yeah, GT6 wasn't the most successful, but it was fun. It's the last real Gran Turismo game. We had a lot of features that we may never have again. Granted, we didn't have self-erasing, which was annoying. We didn't have some of the old cars that we liked in the old games. Too many to name, honestly. But we had a lot of new cars. A lot of continuous cars. And a lot of tracks too, and you can make your own. Quick matches, again, nice touch. But to the overall scale of it, to the overall people, it was meh at best. For anyone who says GT6 is their favorite Gran Turismo game, I would say that's no one above the age of 15 or so. I can see nostalgia for the first game you played, that makes sense. Let's say if I was 12 years younger than I was right now, then I would like GT6 best, because that's the one I growing up with. But other than that, I don't really see how you could really like GT6 best. You may have the most memories in GT6 just because of the online part of it. I would say for me that's probably correct. The most statistical and total hours of memories racing online I have in 6. The most fun I think I've had racing online overall was probably 5 because the servers were a lot better. Individual events, maybe GT6 is slightly more fun just because there's more clubs and leagues and stuff, but for a less amount of time. So again, back to me more. Sorry, this is kind of going back and forth, but I can't. Just seems to be the best format to get everything in a decent amount of time. GT5 I had about 110,000 miles. GT6 I had about 105-ish. I have about 101,000 miles on my main account, and then I'd say realistically I put about 4 or 5,000 in college. So that's good. Slightly less than 5, it's pretty much consistent, but also 6 had online for slightly less amount of time than 5, so both of them are about equal in that aspect, but GT5 had more good and memorable things overall. GT6 may have had better of the ones that are memorable. Again, that's just me, but I think that might be the same for everyone. Some people probably barely remember 6 because it wasn't really worth that much playing when the PS4 came out and people bought them. Especially when Sport came out. But if you're watching this video, it probably was for you, and I can salute you for that. There was a good chance you probably got more out of it than me in the sense of online was more usable for you, just my internet was not compatible with 6 and still really ain't. In a way, it is slightly more compatible in the sense of GT Sport has that if you're NAT Type 3, which I am at my college, it only connects to certain rooms. NAT Type 3 connects perfectly fine to daily races, so that's a different video, but for this, I'll just pretty much end it here. GT6 was better than Sport in a lot of ways, the majority of ways. But it was worse than the majority of Gran Turismos in the majority of ways as well. I'd say a pretty accurate overall rating with everything included by the end would be about an 8.5 out of 10 or so. We still never got Soulful Racing, but we got some stuff I never expected as well. Every other Gran Turismo was probably at least a 9, but an 8.5 ain't too shabby. As an FGT Sport, I'd have it hovering at about a 7 or so, and that's on a good day where I'm not angry at it. Clear Thoughts, I put it at about a 7. Not bad, it's far from the worst game out there. It's probably better than a lot of racing games out there now. Need for Speed Payback. But, yeah. Far from the best, not the worst, but sadly it might be the best we ever get again. If it is, I'm moving on from Gran Turismo, but different videos. GT6, the real simulator. Okay physics. Okay sound. GT Sport improved in that. Great cars. Best Gran Turismo for cars. Everything else is kind of iffy on if it was truly okay, but not bad. For Gran Turismo standards, 8.5 really is good, but I'm as picky as any Gran Turismo fan out there, but I had fun with 6. I would have had more fun, I think, if they just continued GT5 online and then just added quick matches in later and then added more cars in or something, but whatever. We had what we had, and what we had was better than what we have now, overall. So if y'all enjoyed GT6, I did for the most part, which is more than I can say for Sport right now. Even though I couldn't connect to all the races, GT Sport does have better connectivity, usually. Pretty much, the majority of races that I connected to in 6 were more fun. And, well, GT6 also has an offline that's legitimate, but that's... Maybe I'll revisit that in a later video, I'm not so sure. I may get a replayability of GT6 like I kind of did with Sport anyway. But online isn't replayability, so I'll focus... Well, I still have online for the 12 hours I do or whatever. So... yeah, that's it. There's not much more to say. I don't really know how to end this. Is it really a yeehaw? It's definitely not that it's ending. If there's anything I forgot, I'm sorry. Again, this may not be the last GT6 video. If you have stuff you want me to mention later on that makes you feel better about the game or whatever, just worth mentioning no matter how it makes you feel about the game, I might very well do it. But I guess that's it. Goodbye, GT6. It's been Matterhorn, ups and downs. That's probably the best way to put it. Matterhorn overall has more ups because it's high up in general, but if you start going down from the top of the hill, you're still pretty picking up, but it's still down to what you know, isn't it? It may just may be the best way to sum up GT6. But I guess, all things considered, it's still a yeehaw. But now I have to move on to sport completely. And that ain't. But this is GT6, so yeehaw.